Welcome to Om on the Range, where we share the practice of meditation, the wisdom of Western Buddhism, and the refuge of our community. Whether you are new to meditation or a longtime practitioner, committed or curious, this offering is here to share solutions, stories, and support. Happiness and better health are available to everyone. It just takes practice. This is Om on the Range. Hello and welcome to episode number 49 of Om on the Range. We are your home for all things meditation, Western Buddhism, and community. Unless, of course, it's something we haven't stumbled upon or learned yet, and then we're not your all-knowing podcast. But we are always raw and real, and we're going to continue that tradition this week. I'm very pleased to welcome Kate Fields to our show. She will be co-hosting this week. Kate, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Whit, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we delve into where this conversation may take us, let's start by giving you an opportunity to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I born and raised here in Kansas City, Kansas, and live in Mission. Boy, 28 years now. And I work for a nonprofit that helps folks go from homelessness to self-sufficiency. I've been in nonprofit work, 22 years. It's been a while. Yeah.
So is it fair to call you a social worker?
Let's call it, I raise money. So I call it sales with a soul.
Okay, that's good. As another sales professional, that I'm more on the side that does not have a soul.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I see, we could do a whole show just on this, by the way, but
I know, right?
I see pros and cons to this sort of thing. My daughters, one of them graduated in social work and the other one is getting her master's in recreational therapy. She works with mostly children with disabilities or injured adults, but she's also working on the private sector. And so we have interesting conversations about whether it's so difficult to put your heart and soul in something. Some people have to, that's what life is to them. But I think other people want to help but they also struggle with that, keeping the two worlds separate, at least with sales. And I'm not talking about your job. Now I've really hijacked the whole show. It only took me about a minute to do this too. But I think it's interesting. I like having a job where it's, hey, when we're at work, we're trying to do this. We're certainly trying to serve our customers. And when we play a very fair game, and integrity matters very much. But also at the end of the day, it's, hey, we do this for money. The bottom line is we do this for money. We have to be profitable so we can support what we do. I think it's
Absolutely
great. You can take that and then mesh it with a more heartfelt target, for lack of a better term. So what's the organization called?
Hillcrest Transitional Housing.
Okay.
So we're in Wyandotte, Johnson, Jackson counties, and we help. And one thing I really liked about it, we've got an adult program, but we also have a youth program where kids 16 to 23 kicked out for whatever reason, and you think of the reason, and you're right on. They need help.
Yeah.
They can stay with us 2 years, rent-free, utility-free, food-free, and finish their high school. They can figure out, do they want to go to college? Do they want to go in the trades? Do they want to do anything? And then they meet with caseworkers and they figure out all the steps to get them there.
Do you guys do any?
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great work. And by the way, I didn't mean to chuckle at their plight. I felt really sensitive after I did that. It was your delivery. Now I'm blaming you. That's really part of the problem of being a guest host on this show is pretty quickly I'm going to blame the new guest host. But yeah, I think that's tremendous. Also, does Hillcrest offer any sort of mindfulness or meditation program for the kids?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I had talked to Victor, when I started 5 years ago, and I had him come over, he toured, and we were in the middle of starting to get a program where maybe he came over once a month, and then it got really crazy busy, TBC. But we do have people come in and talk to folks once a week on something that they can learn. And we've had mindfulness come in before.
Okay.
And it's great.
Good. All right. So if somebody's listening and wants to help support your organization? Is there a website they can go to, or what would you tell them to
Absolutely.
do?
hillcrestkc.org.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm looking for organizations to do food drives for our pantries. We are woefully low.
Okay. That's
Peanut butter, jelly, pasta,
right.
noodles, soup.
Okay. Well, we'll have to when we get to the end, let's plug that again because what a great
Sure.
organization. I've heard of Hillcrest, but I didn't know that you were
Oh, good.
doing that because of course, as is the raw and real commitment we've made at this show, I didn't do any sort of homework. I think I came up to you and said, "Kate, be on the show. Call me at 8." Yeah, so here's how we got here. But I certainly want to give people an opportunity to help, and we'll plug that and see what we can do. So tremendous
Okay.
work. How rewarding is that?
I'll tell you, to be able to see when we go to graduations, when people are done with our programs and they've saved $10,000 and they're able to find a place to live. And the kids are, I'm going to Johnson County Community College and I'm in culinary. And now I've got a job at a pretty fancy restaurant here in town. And it makes it all worthwhile. These kids, especially the kids, they come in with God knows what happened, PTSD. And you see them look at their bedroom and they've never had a bed. I had a kid sleep on a couch for 3 weeks because that's what he slept on. And it takes a while for them to kind of come down and then come out of their shell.
Wow.
And thank God for what I do. I couldn't do what our caseworkers do, but I sure can go out and tell people about it and say, by the way, if you want to help, please help.
Yeah,
I
I
have
think that's
no
great.
problems doing that.
We may just have to find another date to have you on a little bit later in the season and concentrate on that because our Sangha and anybody who's interested in meditation and Western Buddhism, I think 100% all have that feeling that they want to serve. Now, they may not be at a
Right.
point where it's easy for them to do, but what a great organization. And you're changing lives at that, at such a critical juncture for those kids, right? We're right there
Yeah.
between, hey, we're either going to get this back between the lines and help these kids move forward in a more, I don't know, successful manner, or
You know, you're having to just to switch their way of thinking
Mhm.
and teach them a new way of thinking and introduce them to things that they've never seen before, like
Right,
budgeting. Budgeting. I never had budgeting. I wish I would have. But these kids are getting it early on, and we're laying a really good foundation for them. And it's one on one. It's you're really making a difference one on one with somebody. It's
right.
fascinating.
You've probably got so many kids in the program that have never had anybody who really listened to them or could offer them and give them that sneak peek of these are the skills you're going to need. And by the way, not only are we going to share those with you, we're going to support
Hmm.
you. We're here for you. And as long as it's going to be hard. It always is when you're changing, right? But what a great organization. And I'm so glad we stumbled upon that because
Sure.
those are the things that people want to be more involved in. And frankly, a lot of times we don't know that until Kate tells us about it. So thank you very much for
Sure.
that.
I appreciate that. We need all the help we can get and volunteers. So,
Okay.
yay. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's do this. Can you share a little bit about where you are as a Western Buddhist and maybe what your practice looks like?
Yeah, it's really funny because I've been thinking about it since you and I talked. And I stumbled across Buddhism probably 2018, 2017. I would run into people who attended the Remay Center or when COVID and had different areas that they would do things. And when COVID hit and I would get on Facebook, I ran across TBC and I started watching. And then I would see the people who would like it. The names would come up, and I recognized like a couple of people. I called one of them up and said, tell me a little bit about this. So when the COVID cloud lifted and we were able to go to an actual service, fell in love with it.
Wow.
It
Wow.
it's like this is exactly what I have been my whole life. And I know we run across people who say, I think I've always been a Buddhist. It's exactly what I said. think I've always been a Buddhist. It made sense.
You know what? I've always been in the other camp where it took me a long time to want to, if I don't know that I would say I was a Buddhist. Now, I'll tell you what changed for me, even though nobody asked, but what changed for me was I had a sitting practice and still do. I've had one for 20 plus years. And what happened is that I started to realize that the teachings, I was finding those to be true in my practice. It always comes back to awareness, acceptance, and patience for me. That's the, and if I'm struggling, it's probably because I'm probably aware of what the problem is and I'm not accepting it. I'm still fighting it. I'm still wanting
Oh, yeah.
something else. What ended up happening is when I started to go to TBC and listen to the Dharma talks, a lot of times, like, that's exactly what this is. And I think you have to have I think you have to spend some time in silence with yourself to really understand some of the teachings, or really to get to the point where you can live them. So, do you
Right.
have a meditation practice as well, or what's that look like?
I do. And I want to go back and say one thing. I was raised basically a Methodist, which is like Christian light, right? And we were Christians, but we didn't go to church because my folks worked 7 days a week.
Okay.
And I always thought I was an agnostic because I really just didn't know. And my
Yeah.
dad would say, never crossed organized religion. And I'd say, well, Dad, what about you? Well, your mother makes me do that. Yeah.
Mm.
So he always put that little thought in my head, which one's right? Which religion is right?
Yeah.
And so none of them were to me. And I went to college and I studied some of the religions and just to see what people believed. I got married, and one of my first little questions I had to my wife, I said, I just don't know about being a Christian. And she said, why do you have to label yourself? And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. When my mind blew, then I started thinking there's something else. And I found it.
How has having a practice and being a Western Buddhist kind of helped you maybe understand and embrace your authentic self?
That's the $1 million question because just bring a full circle, I came up to you and said, hey, Whit, you should do a show on Pride, Pride Month,
Right. And we're going to
LGBTQ.
get to
And you
that
said,
probably.
yeah. And you said, okay, why don't you do on it? I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. But growing up, in the 80s and trying to figure out who you are and trying to hide it means you're not your authentic self. And I've spent 40 years being an unauthentic person because I'm going to show you something that I'm going to get to you before you get to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I shield people with humor, or I ask them a lot of questions so that they don't say, hey, are you married? Because in the 80s and 90s, you couldn't talk about your private life.
Right. Right.
So to be able to come into the Buddhism and TBC, and really since 2010, have I felt like I've made strides in just being myself. And it's taken a lot. It's easier to be your authentic self to strangers than to people you know, or you don't want people to push you away just because you're who you are. And I've had that happen.
I think it's interesting that members of our Sangha, because most of the time that's who's on this show, and that's where the power of that community, one of them is that we get together and we can be honest and authentic. And
Right.
what seems to happen is, even though there's a lot of different reasons and different paths that led us to where we are, there are certain things that are true for all of us, whether it's become true for a certain individual yet or not, it will become. Does that make sense? It's kind of
Mhm.
Schrodinger's cat in a Buddhist box. But one of them is, when you practice, you're going to find that authentic self. And if you sit long enough, not only are you going to find it, you're going to realize, hey, that's not only is that who I am, that's exactly who I want to be. And so
Yeah.
now it becomes that it's one of those times where the script flips on you, and now it's like, I want to be that. And so now I want to spend more time figuring out who that is.
And that's exactly where I'm at. It's night and day from 2018 to 2026. It's helped so much. And it's the other part about being your authentic self is, and the big takeaway for me with TBC and Western Buddhism was my ego, and to leave your ego at the door. And what does that mean? And change my way of thinking. And it's so different. It's just so different.
Yeah, I think that's the real power of the Sangha, whether it's a subgroup or the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. I find that some of the growth that individuals in the group go through and some of the things that they're able to produce and the closeness is all because we realize that, hey, we want to be authentic. That's the best version of ourselves. So we try to do that every week. And also the rest of the group realizes that, hey, that's who we need. That's who we need Whit to be. We don't need, we don't need funny people. We don't need people that understand the Eightfold Path better than anybody else. We don't need people that can sit for hours at a time and have great posture. All those things are great and they're all welcome, but we really just need the authenticity. And if you had, you and I both like to joke around. That's who we are.
Mhm.
And it fits
Okay.
in great. But we also, as I think that what we've proven so far in the 15 minutes we've been talking is that we have a pretty good handle, at least on where we are with this practice, and we understand how important it is to us. And that's an amazing thing because
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't start this to become more authentic, frankly. I didn't start this to become wise or anything. Started it because I had some fear. And I think if you're trying to live inauthentically, whatever that means, if you're trying to be
Right.
fake to people, then it's probably fear motivated, right? I mean,
Oh,
why else would you
absolutely.
do it?
Yeah. It's a defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you were asking about my practice, and Victor had, when I met with Victor early on, he had told me about the Dharma chart. We called it the Dharma cake, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I love that tool because I can sit there and say, okay, studies and books. Well, I've been doing, I hit videos because I'm kind of an ideology person, not a reader anymore. But
Okay.
and then Sangha and your retreats. Are you doing that? Yes, I'm doing that. And Sila has your ethical conduct. Good, I've got that down. And it's just five things to keep me on that practice. So
Right.
now I'm meditating in the late morning, about 30 minutes a day.
Okay.
And I look forward to it so much. And if I can't do it, then I try to figure out a time I can just sit 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've been doing it for a long time, and 30 minutes is where I've settled in. Sometimes on
Hmm.
Saturdays, I might do an hour, just do back to back. It depends on how early I'm up and how what the world offers me at that point. But I don't miss very many days either. I just don't. It's not,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't generally say that, oh, I missed a day, so I'm grumpy or I'm not. I don't really feel much different, but I
Mhm.
just enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And when I've led groups, beginners groups for the most part in meditation. And that's one of the things I always try to impart to them is, hey, one, there's no certain way you have to sit and there's no certain time limit. You get to control all that. And even if you don't believe the benefits that science and wit say you'll get, there's nothing wrong with making sure you take 5 minutes a day to just let go of some stress. Start there.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the
When
practical piece and you'll be healthier. Less stress is better
mhm.
for a living being, no matter what the being is.
When I started doing a deep dive, it was like a voracious, I need to learn everything, so I'm going to drink from the fire hose. I'm going to learn everything, and I'm going to write
Right.
down the Eightfold Path and blah, 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 and I'm going to do this. And by the way, I'm taking this class and all that. And it took a while for me to settle in and realize it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You're making it because you think you need to know it all. And I didn't. I just sat back, and that's where I think the ego part too. You don't have to know it all. You just need to do what you can do at that time.
As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, which which by the way, I had to read that because I didn't want to get the letters wrong. And
I'm so old, it used to be LG.
yeah, yeah, I think the plus is fairly new for me too. But yeah, but
All the
so
rest.
what are the aspects, or how has being a Western Buddhist or a member of the Sangha been particularly supportive, or how is that? I mean, we talked about authenticity, and that's probably enough said, but just are there
Yeah.
particulars, or how does it? I was going to say, how does it feel to be a member? And I suppose that's a good question. You can answer that. Let's start there.
First and foremost, everybody is kind. Everybody feels like they are wanted there. Victor, I'd be a lemming and follow him off a cliff if I
Right,
needed to.
right.
I think the world of him. But here's the thing, Whit. A lot of times out in the community, I don't, when, okay, this sounds weird, but the
I can't
only
wait.
time, yeah, I know, right? The only time I used to feel normal was only around gay people. If I was in the community with a lot of straight people, I was either concerned they'd find out. Did I look funny? Did I act funny? Do they know? So there was no ease. Walking into TBC, I'm a part of it. It didn't matter. I don't ever feel that way. Everybody is so accepting. And I can walk in there and never think about that ever.
Okay.
I just don't. And do you know how freeing that is?
I can
And
only imagine.
I'm speaking on, for myself, not, for every
Right.
member of the club.
But and you know what? That's why, as a question, that's why I was a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't ever think about that because of how the group is structured. Buddhism is all about acceptance, right? And
Right. Yeah.
there's no, I think its real strength is that there's no righteousness. There is
Yeah.
nobody is right. It's just what it is. And there's no judgment, and there's no rules. We expect
Mm-mm.
you to show up, be authentic, be responsible.
Mhm.
That's part of just being a human, a good human anyway. But yeah, and
Mhm.
then awareness, acceptance, and patience. And it's not so much because, oh, that's what good people do. It's because that's what we all know is who we are authentically. And we also know
Mhm.
that's who everybody else is. They just haven't stumbled upon this yet.
Yeah.
So I think our Sangha in particular really does a nice job of representing that. And again, it's not us. We're not going to put up a banner, although a banner would look cool. It's more just that's all kind of where we are. And again, it also goes back to Victor and Robert and all the people that support them. But those two in
Mhm.
particular, are so committed to the path and see it so clearly and are so willing to share. I love talking to both of them. I consider them both friends, but Robert's been on the show 3 or 4 times, so is Victor. They're always willing to help. And they don't, as you have learned in the short time we've been together here on this show, we don't stay between the lines very often.
Oh, no, nor should you.
Yeah, so I was just curious, like I said, how it felt, because that is not something that everybody's gone through or is a
Well,
part of.
it's interesting for me now at this age and this 2026 driving around and looking at churches that say everybody's welcome and there's the pride flag. And I'm like, wow, because 40 years ago that would have never happened. It's different. And I'm still getting used to it. And I still think, really though, are you, am
Yeah,
I really accepted there?
yeah.
So, it's still that little voice. And I never think about that at TBC. And I walk in and it's, you're welcome, come in. It doesn't even matter who you are, what you are. It doesn't matter.
So how do you think your practice, how has it changed how you deal with the world when you're not at TBC or in the Sangha? Have you found benefits or changes in how you feel outside
Oh,
there?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I deal with a lot of different people and a lot of different beliefs. I'm out in the community. Probably 80% of my job is out running a lot. And when I'm in the car, I take the time to kind of do like just a quiet meditation while driving, which I love. And that kind of calms me down between appointments that I'll have. And, I may run into people, and I do run into people who don't believe the same things I do. And before, I think my mouth would have gotten a little ahead of me. But now I can sit back and think they've got their own beliefs, and I'm not going to change them, nor should I try and go on that way. It's calmed my mind down, my ADHD mind,
Okay.
where I'm more focused. I'm not running like I used to. And it's wonderful. Am I answering that question?
Yeah, I think you're doing a nice job because
Okay.
it is difficult. And it's not, I was going to say there are so many benefits that you get through practice and through following these teachings. But I don't know that that's the reason why you practice. I think sometimes you say, yeah, that would be great. That's why I'm going to start this. That's what it is. But I think you, like I said, you get to that point where it's all about the authenticity and the
Uh-huh.
acceptance and just trying to be the best version of you. And then it all spills over into everything else. You become less afraid and you become
Yeah.
less caught up in what other people think. Because again, not because it's right or wrong or because we're
Mhm.
strong and they're weak. It's just that's not who you are. That's not
Yeah.
how we want to live. And it's again, it's not really even a choice. It's just who we are. And it's hard to get people to stop. It's hard to get people to give up their ego, give up their judgments, give up
Huh.
their attachments, all those things. Most people don't even think about that. So when you say, "Hey, you shouldn't be so attached to what you think is right and wrong," they they can't comprehend that. I have to be right. What would I be then? There really is no right or wrong. It's perspective.
Huh.
You don't have all the facts. And even if you did, doesn't mean you would get it right. And what's it matter? Why would you really the only thing you gotta do is hey, try not to hurt people. That might be about as basic as you get. Plus, if you're not gonna accept stuff, I've noticed if I don't accept stuff, it hurts me. I don't know if it
Uh-huh.
hurts anybody else or not. But I know it bothers me. So F that. I'm not doing that. So that's what I love about all of this, about the practice and about Western Buddhism,
Huh.
Sangha. It makes sense, it's practical, it's applicable. And by the way,
To our daily lives.
yeah, and you become that better version. I'm healthier, I'm happier.
The more I listen, the more I look at Jack,
Cornfield?
thank you, or
Yeah.
Joseph Goldstein. I'm listening to all that. And I might listen a couple of times. And then I later on down the road, something pops in my head at that situation. And I'm finding that to happen more and more.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. All of a sudden, it's my practice. It's boom, there it is. That's why. And I didn't think I would ever get there.
I can see that.
It's not like I'm trying to memorize things, but I do listen and read, and it's starting to stick, and it's awesome.
And I think also your sitting practice gives you that patience. We're going to be aware of what's going on and we're going to try to accept before we react. Again, and what happens is you start to say, "Oh, that doesn't, it all makes sense. I'm who I am and what I do when I'm not here doesn't matter as much as long as I'm being a responsible, authentic version. That's all that matters. And that's what they're
Right.
trying to do. And so we're on the same playing field. So we are just about out of time. I've got one
Mhm.
last question for you, and you're going to get a whole minute to answer it. But if there's
Oh,
one
good.
thing that you could maybe say to someone who's exploring both their spiritual path and kind of their personal identity, what would it be? Even if it's maybe you 20 years ago, or hell, me 20 years ago for that matter, what would you want to share?
I'm hung up on ego and authenticity, which is why we've been talking about it.
Right.
I would love to tell my 25-year-old self, 30-year-old self, get out of your ego. Just lay it aside. It's not all about you. Because, and Carol Murray says, is it fact? Is it fiction? What you're hearing, is it truth or is it not? And when you're in your head and you're thinking, oh, that person thinks that or I didn't get picked for this because, and you're making up stories, you don't even know half the facts. Get out of your head. That's what I would tell people
Okay.
with, dropping the ego, just making it a basic practice, sitting with yourself, go through the heart of service. I love the heart of service.
Right. Well, you're living that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kate, thank you very much for serving as co-host. You did a great
Oh,
job.
well.
Here's how I know that it was a great show is because I feel like we could have talked for another hour and a half. So let's do this. If you're open to it, let's get you back on and we'll talk a little
Okay.
more about Hillcrest and we'll talk a little more about where you are with your practice. And I'd also like to talk a little bit about the experience you're going through as the backup MC or whatever you want to call yourself. So thank you very much. Appreciate the wisdom and the candor. And I also want to thank everyone for listening. This has been episode number 49 of Oma on the Range. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and the TBC Facebook page and website. You can also email us if you would like to at omaontheRangePodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave comments on any of the platforms I mentioned earlier. So thank you all. I want to again thank Kate Fields and wish you all happy trails. Thanks to our Oma on the Range production team for making this program possible, and to Mr. Brad Athey for composing and performing the original music. And to you, our listeners, thank you for being a part of this journey as we explore meditation, Western Buddhism, and the path towards a happier, healthier life. Remember, less suffering and more joy are available to everyone. It just takes practice. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and keep finding peace in the simple, practical things. For all of us here at Oma on the Range, happy trails.